just learned some Kazakh. So, Mahan, cocktail, hotenish, verinish. Wow, okay.
First one. Dojik.
Dodgik.
Dojik.
Dojik. Okay. How do I say любимая моя?
Moja kochana.
Oh, moja kochana.
Moja kochana.
Привет, z Odessy. In Ukraine, greetings from Ukraine, and that is in the Ukrainian language. And in today's video, I'm going to explaining to you why you need to learn the local languages for here in Eastern Europe if you want to date the 9s and 10s, the super beautiful, that Olympian level of beauty. And it is more important today than it has been in the past. Поехали!
SAR Experience.
So in the past, I've often gotten the objection when I advocate learning local languages, just in general for life here, but also for dating. I've gotten the objection, Connor, but all the girls were learning English because English is the international language, which is certainly true. It is, they say, global lingua franca. But the reality is that even if more and more girls, especially younger girls here in Eastern Europe, they do speak increasingly better level of English, that doesn't mean that by relying exclusively on English that you're actually going to do better on the dating market, because many things have changed. I actually think it was actually more of an advantage being an English speaker in the past than it is today. That's going to surprise a lot of people. It seems a little bit counterintuitive, the level of English going up, but surely that makes it easier if you rely exclusively on English. And the reality is no, and that's for a multitude of factors. I'm going to go into some of them in this video, but by and large is that if you rely exclusively on English, it's not just about communication, it's also about the social group that you are either associated with or that you enter if you do not speak the local language and you rely exclusively on English. And the biggest difference, I think, say from 10 years ago, if you come here relying on English, is the fact that, well, there are a lot more guys in your position relying exclusively on English than there was 10 years ago, so you are no longer that much of a rare commodity, being the Brit, the American, the German, or from wherever relying on English. There's just a lot of them, and also the travel situation has changed a lot in Eastern Europe. Most Eastern Europeans can travel a lot more freely, a lot more worldly than they were 10 years ago, and as a result, well, they just meet a lot more foreigners. Also, you have the whole technological aspect with Instagram and Tinder and all these dating apps, or just social media in general, is that girls are more and more exposed to foreigners, so they see less value in the fact that you are a foreigner in general, especially one relying exclusively on English. So let me get into the two main points with learning the local language that'll give you a big plus. I would say it's about a +2 out of 10. Yes, that big a difference. Варшавские хипстеры, и это типа центр хипстерской культуры из Украины, из Беларуси, типа. So the first very obvious point is communication. If the girl doesn't speak English, then obviously you're going to be extremely limited in terms of your communication, and probably it's going to be a deal breaker. Now, of course, with Google Translate and other technology, we can compensate a little bit for that, but by and large, if you don't speak the local language, you're going to be cut off from having a relationship with the girls who don't speak a reasonable level of English. Definitely for a long-term relationship, for sure. So how many people, or the girls in this case, in Eastern Europe don't speak good English? Now, it really depends on where you are. Like, the level of English tends to be very high, in fact, in certain parts of what we'll call Eastern Europe. For example, Poland, which is in Central Europe, but in the very eastern part of it, the level of English is extremely high. I was also up in Latvia, also there, very high level of English. However, in other parts of Eastern Europe, like here, say in Ukraine or Kazakhstan, where I just was for a client for a month, the level tends to be quite limited. And as a result, I would say it's probably a 50-50 in a big city like Odessa, or in Almaty, or the capital of Kazakhstan, Astana. At best, it's a 50-50 with girls probably under 25. As you go up in age, as you go more rural, as you go maybe less educated, or less wealthy, that is going to drop off probably quite considerably. It could be as low as, say, only 20%, depending where you are. So really it oscillates in terms of the communication. Plus, another big factor is the ease with which the girls who do speak English can leave and pursue maybe a career or just a life abroad. If they have an European Union passport, like Romanians, Poles, obviously Latvians, then they are not limited in where they can live. And in general, those kind of girls who are more likely to speak English are going to have more opportunities and are going to leave. And even if they're from a country where those opportunities are less, with technology, they are easily reachable by all guys across the world. And you know, if they're best at learning English, the chances are they're more interested in a foreign guy, and they probably met loads of them before, and probably they're going to have already left. That is the main thing I want to point out, that even if in general the level of English is improving all across the continent, still pretty low in a lot of parts of it, and the girls who best learn English, they were increasing also, whether it was on purpose or just a side effect, their dating opportunities as well with foreigners. So they just don't tend to hang around those girls so much. So overall, communication, obviously, it's pretty essential, and relying on English in a lot of parts of East Europe going to exclude actually probably the majority of single girls.
If you are coming here to Warsaw, for example, to meet, I don't know, a girlfriend or to date women, I would say as a foreigner, if you speak only English, you have a disadvantage, that's for sure. But if you speak the language, if you speak Polish, you will be so surprised how Polish people, they will be so impressed, even though you speak just like a basic words, because it shows that you came here not only for, let's say, that special tourism, but you came to get to know the culture, the people, to meet Poles and so on, and you show some level of interest to the local culture. So yeah, if you want to move to Poland, if you want to visit, I really highly recommend you at least to learn some basic of Polish. That's very important, and that's a game changer, believe me.
One of the actual main reasons that we learn another language is to enter another social group. So think about it. If you were from Odessa here and you learned English, then you could access, you know, different social group, i.e. foreigners probably, and present not just new dating opportunities, but also probably some business opportunities. And for us as foreigners, when we come to Eastern Europe, learning the local language also gives us access to new social groups. And that is vitally important in dating, especially the most beautiful women, because the ones that are actually hanging out in Eastern Europe, they are not, and assuming not necessarily trying to leave, which is actually probably a minority at this point, because the ones who want to leave, well, they already left, most of it. They are looking for a high-value local guy. Local, in inverted commas, can also be a foreigner, but basically lives locally or hangs out locally and has access to those high-value social circles. And it's, in fact, quite difficult to access those high-level social circles if you don't speak the local language. It's not that those guys or girls in those social circles don't speak English. It's that when they're having their own social events, in general, they're going to use the local language. And it's just a lot of hassle to be inviting someone who doesn't speak it, because then everyone has to switch language. And in some countries, they're more accommodating that than others. But just in general, speaking the local language is going to give you a lot more credibility. You're not going to look like a blow-in, a tourist, definitely not a sexpat. Sexpats normally just rely on English. And by learning the local language, you're not going to have to spend, say, 20 minutes of the initial conversation you have with someone trying to get out of that box of being the tourist, whether it's a sex tourist or just a normal tourist, or the expat who's not integrated, and here probably for sleazier reasons. And that is what really the big power in learning the local language is. You're going to be seen more as a local and a high-value local, assuming that you can. You also have other things going on in your life that demonstrate your high value, but it's definitely a big one, and one that I think, especially over the last year or so, where I've been looking for alternatives for my clients to Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia, with the obvious Russo-Ukrainian war still ongoing, In places like Poland, it's very hard to get accepted if you open the conversations with the prettier girls in English. In general, they're not looking for tourists, they're not looking to leave Poland, so they'll put you in that box, at least if you can open the conversation in Polish. On top of it, getting into the best places can be sometimes an issue. We did go to, not just in Poland, but also in Latvia, the best club actually. Originally, when I went to the door of my client, they wouldn't let us in because we were speaking in English. And it's only when I waited around for a couple of minutes and spoke to some of the other bouncers in Russian. Now, obviously Russian is not the official language of Latvia, but since I don't speak Latvian and I kind of guess that the bouncers amongst themselves spoke in Russian, they then let me in straight away. And afterwards I spoke to bouncers and they told me we don't let tourists in here. And yeah, locals are fine. I mean, obviously he at that point considered me a local, even though in fact I was kind of almost a tourist since I just arrived in Latvia a couple of days earlier. But because I was able to speak a local language in inverted commas, he didn't see me as the normal blow-in tourist. And I get into the club, and it's by far the best club with lots and lots of hotties. So definitely, there you go.
Everyone.
Hello, привет. So definitely that is one of the values that you're gonna see. It's got credibility basically. And also I'd say maybe as a third point, in terms of the girl you're trying to select, do you really want to be using the traditional wife hunter model, which is just to come to Eastern Europe, I guess, shopping, in inverted commas, for a wife? That's kind of the stereotype, because they're all desperate to leave with a foreigner and go live in America. The chances of that relationship lasting long term when you get back to America are pretty slim, because basically she is invested in her hypergamy or better socioeconomic opportunities if she is primarily with you to leave the country, right? So often I had that retort from guys who did meet girls here. I'm not saying you can't meet a girl, obviously, by just using English, but those girls wanted to move in general. And that is a big problem, because anecdotally, I have a consulting client who told me this, that he was married to a Russian woman around 20 years ago in Canada. And he used to hang out with a group of Canadian guys who married Eastern European women. And he told me 80% of the time, once the woman had her residency or a passport in Canada, their relationship ended, because the main fulcrum of the relationship was her desire to leave. And let's be frank about it, for the guy it was the fact that she was hotter than his other options in Canada or elsewhere, right? So once that is gone, then the glue binding the relationship together also finished. So I think it's just better for you yourself if you are being selected by the girls for something other than the ability to leave the country for long-term longevity of the relationship.
Honestly, if you don't speak Polish and you want to date Polish girls, you will find two types of girls. The gold digger, but then she will screen you very quickly. Do you have money? You don't have money? I don't really recommend you to that kind of woman in Poland, because you have much more interest in women than that. Then you have the second type of woman that will date a foreigner. These are like the fives, the fours, those that don't even have a chance with Polish guys in the local dating market. If you start learning Polish, then it's a game changer for you. Then you will start dating actually more girls in your level, having money, let's say, having a certain financial situation and coming to Poland doesn't give you that much difference, honestly, with Polish women, because they're also like very independent. What they want somebody who's giving commitment, who's showing commitment, and commitment is language, showing that you are very interested about the local culture and so on. And I think that's very important in the dating scene. So yeah, if you're coming here, just like if you even tell them that you're coming here only for a few days because you're coming as a tourist, you have a big disadvantage, believe me.
So just finally, I'd like to give you my own personal experience. I have definitely got a massive return on my investment into different languages I've learned. I've actually learned over 10 languages, and also for Eastern Europe, it has made a big difference, not just with respect to dating girls that I wouldn't have been otherwise able to even talk to and develop a relationship with. Obviously the communication part, and take my current relationship at the moment, my girlfriend doesn't speak a great level of English, and we've known each other, I think we first met about 4 years ago. So obviously if I didn't speak Russian or Ukrainian, then we just wouldn't have developed any sort of relationship. And that also goes to selecting correctly and screening out the green card girls, as I call them, ones who are trying to get the green card to go to the US. Obviously, those girls are going to invest in learning English and then want to leave with you. We did leave with the war temporarily. We went to my home country, Ireland, for 2 months. Angela, dzień.
Скали Бахер!
Що?
Потрібно ще декілька фотографій зробити.
Ага.
Це обов'язково.
Фотографний муж, так?
Ага, це точно.
But as you see, been back here in Eastern Europe, both of us, for the last year or so. On top of that, in terms of entering social circles and jumping out automatically out of that tourist box, I actually have a client who was living in Kiev before the war. And this is a guy who is a decamillionaire, has a very strong social circle in Kiev amongst expats and amongst locals, is in good physical shape. He's in his late 30s, not a bad looking guy. He's actually reasonably tall. I think he's about 185 centimeters, so not, doesn't have any obvious faults. And he told me the one thing that trips him up with the super hotties in Kiev is the first 20 minutes when he has to do everything in English and explain who he is and that he's not another pesky desperado wife hunter type who's come to Eastern Europe to search for, a wife to bring home in the suitcase, metaphorically speaking. So definitely there is huge return on investment. So down below I have a link to a free gift. It is a free language learning course, a very short one. Just type in your email there and then you get that for free. It says something I'm passionate about, learning languages, and I've learned over 10 of them myself. So save yourself a bit of hassle and tap into my encyclopedic knowledge about language learning. There are also extra brownie points if you can tell who these 3 Ukrainian literary figures are that are on my t-shirt. And you better look down here. Got the after party, but you got 3 of them there. You can let me know down in the comments below if your Ukrainian literary knowledge is good enough to figure out who those 3 are. 3 like this, or 3 like this if we're talking about Inglourious Basterds. So, what can I say further to you? It is a beautiful evening here in Odessa in Ukraine. Actually, wondering which language you should be trying to learn for Eastern Europe nowadays with a lot of the geopolitical changes that we've seen with the Russo-Ukrainian war. I'll link another video that I did recently. I think it was up in Chisinau about which language to learn in Eastern Europe, or for traveling in Eastern Europe, or for lifestyle in Eastern Europe in 2023 going forward. And what I've seen over the last year with my clients who live the Zara experience with me is the increasing value of learning the local language. I just see that the clients who do the best overall over the long term are guys that invest in learning the language. And it is a bit of a investment of time. It's not necessarily investment in a lot of money relative to everything else, but it definitely gives you the edge, encourages you to do it. And if you are the kind of person who is committed to 3 to 12 months a year, dating the uber hotties, 9s and 10s, not down for settling for soft 6s, any of that kind of malarkey, and definitely not a wife hunter you'll probably be 15, 20 years too late anyways to the party if you're a wife hunter realistically. I run the Zara experience. Down below is an application form, and as I say recently, at least at the end of these videos, Wayne Gretzky, a famous Canadian ice hockey player, Canuck of Belarusian origin, said you miss 100% of the shots that you never take. However, before you line up to take that shot, I encourage you to watch at least 2, if not 3, of my playlists. If you're new to the channel, you should probably have a look through all 3. The first one is the extended playlist for the Vodka Vodcast. I have over 50 hours there of content, diving deep into the mindset, particularly in dating, but also moving and lifestyle here, relocation in Eastern Europe. You can tap into that for free, just go through the videos there on that playlist. Then the second one, which is what this video is a part of, is my set of tutorials for dating the 9s and 10s, the super beautiful of Eastern Europe. It is a playlist that I put together. This video will also go onto it. Probably not going to add so many more because I've already made, I think it's over 25 videos for this playlist already, but it's there. Go check it out. And finally, we have a playlist. Third one I'll link up above, also down below in the description, is for the cities that I have been living the Czar experience in with my clients. Got some, for the previous cities, unfortunately we can't go to those with the Russo-Ukrainian war, like Kharkiv here in Ukraine, or Minsk in Belarus, or St. Petersburg in Russia. But for the last year with my clients, we have been going and having an unforgettable experience in cities like Crazy Chisinau in Moldova, just up the road, a few hours from here. It is the capital of Mad Moldova, and it is really a lot of fun to hang out and party there. Lots of girls, pretty similar, I think, in terms of culture to here in Ukraine. It's a good substitute, with Ukraine obviously having, unfortunately, this invasion or extended invasion. Obviously, the war has been going on in some shape or form since 2014 here. Then I've been bringing clients to Riga up on the Baltics. Absolutely amazing spot to party in. Beautiful old town in Riga, but the best parties go on elsewhere, and that is where I've been bringing my clients there, because I am known as the insider for Eastern Europe. So as I alluded to, if we had just been tourists, we would not have got into the best party in Riga. So there you go. That's already the value of the language for you right there. Also, we have been going to Almaty, the Almighty, in southern Kazakhstan. Absolutely incredible city with beautiful mountains and lakes and canyons nearby. Very green in the summer, and a great place to party with the super beautiful, just off the steppes of Kazakhstan, of Central Asia. I'm going to count it as Eastern Europe for our purposes. And then finally bringing clients to Warsaw, the capital of Poland. You've got the cute Ukrainians who come en masse. Unfortunately, probably fortunately for Poland, unfortunately for Ukraine with this war. You also have the beautiful Belarusians, also tragically had to leave because of political oppression in general since 2022. And basically the best of Minsk and Belarus is, unfortunately for their country, left, but a lot of them are in Warsaw in Poland. And also you got the pretty Poles there. And, you know, if you don't speak Polish, it's going to be hard to get into the best spots also in Warsaw unless you have your insider, or some also known as the special forces by some of my clients for the region. So there are the 4 cities that we were going for. I got the right numbers on my finger, right number of fingers up on my hand this time. So down below is the application form. Take your shot, and could be you and me having an unforgettable time together, partying with the super beautiful, having a VIP experience here in Eastern Europe, and getting you set up for a new life full of more freedom, lower cost of living, so you get better value for your money. In most cases, lower taxes, and of course, better dating scene. I think everybody knows that. Eastern Europe versus, North America or Western Europe, it's kind of like chalk and cheese in terms of the dating options for many reasons, but I have lots of videos about that. Anyways, on my channel, you can take a browse through if you're new, and especially on that Valka Valcast playlist, you're gonna get lots and lots and lots of great content about the mindset here, the real man mindset that you need. Nastorashi mujik. And on up note, I will bid you a do pobachenia from Odessa, Ukraine. Ciao, ciao.
Czar Experience.